Game development explained. No theory, just what works.
If you work on a team, you absolutely know the feeling. Just an endless flood of chat messages, constant pings, and this nagging sense that you're all just running in circles. Well, today, we're going to dive into why our communication feels so broken, and how a surprisingly simple, kind of old-school tool might be the exact fix you need.
So how many times has this exact question popped up in your team's Slack? Maybe 2 weeks after a decision was supposedly made. You end up having the same exact debate all over again, because the original context, the why behind that choice, has just vanished into the digital ether. It's totally exhausting, and it is a massive drain on momentum.
This right here, this gets to the absolute heart of the problem. You know, our modern tools, Slack, Teams, you name it, they're all built for one thing: speed. And it feels really efficient to make choices in a quick huddle or some rapid-fire chat thread. But that speed, it comes at a huge cost: retention. The decisions get made, sure, but they have no memory. They just don't stick.
Okay, so here's the crucial point. We often blame the symptom, right? We think, there are just too many messages. But the real disease is a lack of closure. We have all these endless conversations, but very, very few concrete, findable conclusions. The problem isn't that you're talking too much, it's that your talk isn't actually leading to anything solid.
In this lack of closure, it's not a one-off thing. It actually creates this vicious cycle. Let's call it the communication chaos loop. And it's this predictable pattern where all our good intentions and our super fast tools combine to create some really expensive, soul-crushing rework.
So this whole loop is fueled by something the source material calls invisible decisions. Think about it. A team lead types "sounds good" in a really long thread. I mean, a decision was technically made, right? But can anyone find it a week later? Can they reconstruct the trade-offs that were considered? Almost always the answer is no. It's basically a ghost haunting your project. And here's how that destructive pattern plays out step by step. First, a quick decision gets made in chat. Then, of course, something changes. A bug is found, new feedback comes in. This leads to step 3. Someone asks, wait, why did we do that? But nobody can actually remember the original trade-off. So what happens? In step 4, the team falls right back into the exact same argument. And boom, the cycle repeats, just burning time and morale.
So what's the ultimate cost of all this chaos? It's devastatingly simple, really. If your decisions are constantly leaking away, your project can't actually move forward. It just drifts. Your progress stalls because the foundation you're trying to build on is basically made of sand, and it gets washed away with every new notification. So how in the world do we break this cycle? Well, the answer is pretty counterintuitive. We don't need another app. We don't need a faster tool. We need to introduce a little bit of what's called tactical friction, using, of all things, a piece of paper.
This is probably the single most important mindset shift you can make. Just because some words were typed into a box and someone hit enter, that does not mean a durable decision has been made. A real decision is an artifact. It's something that survives time and context shifts. It's an anchor, not just a whisper in the wind.
So, why on earth does paper work? Well, the first principle is something called forced compression. You've only got a limited amount of space, right? So you can't type some endless, vague paragraph. A phrase like improve onboarding has to become something concrete, like add one step that requires connecting their calendar. It forces you to be clear.
And this quote just nails the power of that compression perfectly. The act of writing the decision down in a single, clear sentence is actually a test. If you're struggling to do it, it's a huge sign that the idea isn't fully baked yet. The friction of writing actually reveals the ambiguity before it can become a problem.
Okay, the second principle is the micro-pause. I mean, think about it. Picking up a pen, finding a card, actually writing, it creates this small moment of friction. But that tiny pause is incredibly powerful. It separates a knee-jerk reaction in a chat from a deliberate, committed choice. It makes the act of deciding feel distinct and, well, a little more real.
And finally, there's the physical anchor. A message in Slack gets buried in seconds. A digital doc is out of sight, out of mind. But a physical card sitting on your desk, it is a constant, visible reminder of the commitment you all made. It's just there, and it makes it so much easier to honor the decision than to fire up that same old argument again.
Okay, so let's get really practical. How do you actually implement this? The tool is beautifully simple. It's called the 2-minute decision card. And this isn't about creating some heavy bureaucracy. It's about a super lightweight intervention that prevents heavyweight problems down the line. Here is the one and only rule you need. It is so simple, but it changes everything.
A decision is just talk. It's just noise until it is physically written down on one of these cards. This is the gate. This is how you stop the leaks.
And here's what actually goes on the card. Don't worry, it's not complicated. You've got a one-sentence summary of the decision. The context, like why are we even talking about this? The different options you considered. And crucially, a single decision owner for closure. The trade-off. What are you giving up? A definition of done and a date to revisit. It literally takes 2 minutes to fill out, and it can save you weeks of rework.
Let's just focus on that trade-off component for a second, because it's probably the most important part of the whole card. This quote says it all. If you don't explicitly write down what you are choosing not to do, or what might get a little worse because of this choice, you are just scheduling a fight for your future selves. It's that simple.
So, do you have a communication problem or a closure problem? Here's a really simple diagnostic you can run with your team, like right now. Let's call it the 30-second test.
First question. Go ask your team, hey, what was the last meaningful decision we made, and what specific trade-off did we accept to make it happen? Can you get a crisp, consistent answer from everybody? Or do you just get silence and some vague, fuzzy recollections?
And now for the second, killer question. Where is that decision written down? And I don't mean in a way that requires a forensic search of old chat logs. I mean, is it in a canonical place that anyone on the team can find in less than 30 seconds?
If the answers to those two simple questions are fuzzy, well, there's your diagnosis. The constant meetings and the endless messages, they aren't the problem. They're just symptoms. The root cause is a systemic, team-wide lack of closure.
And we'll end on this thought. In the crazy fast world of modern work, a decision that you can't retrieve almost instantly is, for all practical purposes, a decision that was never really made. It's just an echo. So the question is, are you building your projects on solid decisions, or are you building them on echoes?
If this is useful, subscribe.
New breakdowns every week.